Allie Vincent, winner of the 5th season of The Biggest Loser, once said, "Stop seeing the obstacles you face as reasons why you can't do something. See them as a reason why you can. And celebrate your accomplishments on a daily basis." In life, there are always going to be those obstacles that are going to try and slow you down, but you have to decide to conquer those in order to reach your goal. Hello, my name is Blake Honaker, and this year I'm studying sports journalism in ISM. I just want to kind of jump straight into the research, some of the stuff that I've learned this year through all the readings that I've done. Just a few basic things. First of all, I want to show, I love this visual because one thing I've learned more as I was reading through journalism is the increase of social media use in journalism, not just sports journalism, but journalism in general. And the upsides and downsides. It's very nice because in social media, you can update things very quickly. You can get updates on them. But at the same time, there are a lot of false sites, such as BuzzFeed, that'll say that they're news, and they're not exactly 100% credible, and they're not accurate. Some of the highlights I learned, just a basic journalist's job. They're trained professionals, and they're expected to report, write, edit, and in some cases analyze the developments in news in an unbiased manner, which I think is the most difficult part of being a journalist, is trying to write effectively with keeping your opinion out. It's just a very difficult thing to do. And one big thing I learned, internships provide so much practical experience. In this job, in this career field, I've learned that internships are everything. Every college that I visited so far, I went to the journalism program, and I asked them, and almost all of them for a degree program require that you have an internship, which I think is important to get out there and get in the real world. This is a little different than most jobs. You have to go out and learn how to write. There are 6 chief fields of journalism. You have newspapers, news service, magazine, radio, television, and online journalism, which I love about this because there's so many different outlets that you can go to. If you are more technology heavy, if you're good at that, you can go that direction. Or if you just want to be a basic reporter, there are just so many different jobs within the field that I love. And then we jump straight into all my interviews that I conducted this year. The first interview I conducted was with Mr. Paul Donahue, who was a director of business development for the Fort Worth Vaqueros, which is a local soccer club that he kind of helped produce and run along. My favorite thing that I got from him was read, identify, and develop your own style. He was the first person I met with, so I feel I was much more attentive, and I was listening to, and I took everything he said. And I like this because in the field, he also said that coming up with an idea is the most difficult part of the job. He said that journalism is a follow-the-herd mentality, meaning that everyone is going in one direction. There's one story to cover. You just have to find a way to make yourself different among everybody else and make people want to read your story, give them a reason why they want to read it. My next interview was with Mr. Dale Hansen, who is a sports anchor for WFFA Channel 8, and he was one of the funniest guys I've ever met. I walked right in, and he made me feel as if I was his best friend, and I'd known him for 40 years. He was just a great guy, and he had such a plethora of knowledge to give to me. My favorite thing I got from him was, my opinion is the only thing I can guarantee that you don't know. And while in journalism, you're not supposed to be biased, he's done what most people cannot, and that is he gives his opinion, and that way people love to hear what he says, because he says in order to have an accurate story, and you have to tell your opinion, you want 50% of the people to love it and 50% of the people to hate it. He always said that whenever he's writing something, he said he can write things very quickly, and the way he does it, he says he's always thinking about what he wants to write. Whenever he sees something interesting, it just keeps it on his mind all day. And he said, write to the viewer and know what the audience expects. If you want people to read your story, you need to understand what they want from you and what you can deliver to them. My third interview was with Mr. Mike Leslie, who's a sports anchor for WFFA Channel 8 as well. And my favorite thing I got from him is there's no right way to do this job. He was one of the most charismatic and uplifting people I've ever met. He had just a way about him that showed me that he was different than everybody else. When I've seen him on the news before, and when I've watched him, he just has this air about him that just makes him different from anybody else I've ever seen. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just the way he does it, and he's successful when he does it. That's what I love, because I asked him, I said, if there's any specific things I should do, what I should work on, and he told me that there's no right way to do it. You do it the way you think it should be done, and you can critique it along the way, but people will love it. And he told me to pour yourself in the story. One of the stories he told me about is he covered the TCU baseball team, and there was a girl there that was one of the ball girls. She was dying of cancer, and he covered the whole story about how she grew up through the last few years of her life with that team. And he told me there were a couple times he'd be working on the story, editing the sound bits or anything, and he said it would just bring him to tears. And he said finally the girl passed away, and they were finishing up the story, and he said he talked to the parents, and they were so outgoing, they were able to tell him everything they needed to know. But what he wanted to do was give the girl the respect that the story deserved, that she deserved out of it. And I just thought that was great, that he had that much dedication and passion for what he did. All right. My next interview was with Mr. Earl K. Sneed, and he's the beats writer and online reporter for the Dallas Mavericks. And my favorite thing I got from him was find your passion and roll with it. He told me there were so many routes and things that he did that he wasn't really happy about to get where he was, but when he got there, he just knew working for the Mavericks, he just knew that's what he wanted to do. He loved doing the job that he gets to do. And I think that's important because, and I know it's cliche saying you don't want to work this, just don't do a job for the money, but I mean, he really emphasized that you need to do what you do because you love it, because you have a deep passion for it. You should wake up every morning and want to do it again and again, and you shouldn't see it as a chore. He also, once again, told me to find my own style. So I've kind of learned this, I've had this occurring theme of all the interviewees telling me to find your own style, find your own voice. And while I still am not sure what that is, I like to continue working on it daily whenever I'm writing or if I'm ever blogging. I like to try and push that forward and figure it out along the way. And my last interview was with Mr. Sam Thomas, who is the public relations coordinator for the Dallas Wings. And the big thing I got from him was that situational awareness is key. Sam actually ended up becoming my mentor, and I've enjoyed all that he's given me so far. But when I interviewed him originally, I had no idea, so he gave me some great feedback on the questions that I asked him. One big thing that I found a little controversial that I didn't actually really believe is he said, what is reported is different than what is said. And the more I thought about that, the more I understood that it was true, because there's always going to be that slight bit of bias in there in the stories. You try and keep it about as unbiased as you can, but you know it's not going to be exactly the same. And depending on which news station you're watching, people will pick and choose bits and pieces of what they want to use to get their story across the way that they want it. And like I said, I thought it was crazy at first, but the more he went into detail about it, the more it made sense to me. He also told me that you can't get too emotionally invested in what he does. Sam also works for the Cowboys as a PR role as well, and he used to be a Cowboys fan growing up, but he's gotten to where he works so much at the job that he tells me that you just have to separate your feelings from that. And I feel like, honestly, for me that'd be pretty hard because I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, but if it's what the job requires, you have to do it. All right. Okay. And so for my original work, I created a survey regarding questions that pertain to the recent rule changes in the NFL. Within the last 2 or 3 seasons, they've had increasing changes to help. They're trying to help improve the overall safety of the players by increasing the rulings and the fines and defining what players can and can't do. And then with the results of that, I created an analysis with the results from that survey just to get the data of what people believed. And I also created an article that I would like to either put on my website or post online. From the survey itself, I figured out that 36% of the surveyors don't believe that the rule changes actually ever restricted the players. They feel as if these players are not being able to have as much fun that they have not been restricted, that even though it's just refining the game. I think people believe that it's just the safety of the players is increasing, and it's an added point. And then 56% think that there have been too many excessive celebration penalties this season. This year alone, in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, there were 9 flags thrown for excessive celebration. In the 2015-2016 season, there were 9 all season. And so it kind of got me thinking, and I was just wondering if the rules were becoming too strict on what the players can do after they score a touchdown and they make an interception. That the players, which makes me wonder, the people who said it doesn't restrict them, I always wonder what their thought basis on that. But overwhelmingly, 70% of the people that completed the survey said it did not affect how much they watch football, which means that in the end, people that love the game will watch it no matter what. Even if some of the rule changes might be a little ambiguous and outrageous for them, they love the game and they'll continue to watch it. From this survey, I found out that when it comes to journalism, using a survey is not the best form of collecting data and using it to write an article, because in an article, to make it more credible, you want actual quotes from people. And when you use an online survey, it's hard to do. It's better to do face-to-face interaction. And so that's ultimately what I learned from this experience. And so far with my mentor, Sam Thomas, he's just been fantastic. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. He's so nice, down to earth. But so far this year, Sam has taken me to a Cowboys game. Right at the end of last semester, Sam took me to the game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was fantastic. He got me in. He got me my whole press pass. I felt up there. You know, felt like a big deal. It was awesome. But he took me to the game, and we got to go in a couple hours early. So he sent me around. So this picture is just the view from the booth that we were sitting at. This is where he does all of his work, where he calls the game. And then right here is the actual. It's a mirrored image of one of the booths that we actually got to sit in. And Sam also took me down the lower levels because he wanted to show me around the field. He took me down to one of the storage areas where they stored all the banners from all the events that they had at the games. They had at AT&T Stadium. So when they had WrestleMania 50 and the ACM Music Awards, I just thought that was cool to see all the credentials they had from it, and then just a basic sideline view. But it was a great experience. It was awesome. He got to take me. I got to see what his job got to do. I got to meet so many people at that game. He connected me with so many people. I met one lady. She told me that she worked with Sam in the PR as well, and she told me if I ever needed anything, any connections, if I needed to meet anybody, that she was the lady to go to. It was a great experience, and it was honestly a good preview as to what Sam got to do in his everyday job, and it made me realize that I do want to work. NFL is definitely the route that I want to go. I loved just being able to go to the game, the atmosphere, and it was hectic, I will give it that. When the game was over, as soon as the game was over, my mentor, Sam, he took me and he said, "You ready to go?" And I was like, "There's 3 minutes left in the game. Where's he got to go?" He grabbed me and we ran right down the elevator. He had to get in that press room. And that's the one thing. The job is so hectic. It's whenever you're there at the game, it's boom, boom, boom. You're working the whole time. You got 3, 4, 5 hours straight of work. And I eventually went and asked Sam. I left after the game was over. And unfortunately, I couldn't get into the press conference room. But as soon as I left, I asked him what time he got home that next day. He said it was 1 o'clock in the morning. He said it was insane. But the work he definitely loves what he gets to do. And on top of the Cowboys game, he also took me to a Texas Legends game. I unfortunately didn't get any pictures of that one. We were kind of rushed, kind of flowing through, looking at everything. But the one thing I loved about Sam is going around all these places that I've learned is that in this industry, people are connected in so many ways. When we were at the Legends game, we were stopped every 5 steps because someone would say, "Hey, Sam, how's it going?" And everybody knows who he is. And I just loved everyone said, "Is this your mentor?" I said, "Yes, sir." And they're like, "Yes, sir, yes, ma'am." And they said, "Oh, wow, he's crazy over here." And I was like, but I love it. They all respect each other, and they're all connected. So I love that. And this is just the beginning of my mentorship. Sam has told me that he plans to take me to many games. He wants to go to an event every month, and so I'm looking forward to see where this goes from here and what my end product will end up being at the end of the year. Thank you.